You ever wake up and just know something's off? That was me, standing barefoot in my kitchen, coffee half brewed, staring out the back window at a big empty patch of concrete where my boat should have been. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, blinked, again, still gone. It took a second for my brain to register the absurdity of it. My boat, my baby, a 19-foot base tracker I'd spent 3 years restoring with my own 2 hands, was just not there. I dropped the coffee pot on the counter half full and forgotten, and bolted outside in my slippers. Maybe I'd parked it somewhere else. Maybe my buddy Mike had taken it for maintenance. No, I always locked it down. Heavy-duty wheel, lock, chain through the frame, covered, secured, and Mike wouldn't take it without calling first. He knows better. I checked the side gate. It was unlatched, and the chain that used to secure it, cut clean through. My stomach turned to lead. I ran back inside and pulled up the footage from my home security cameras. I've got 4 cheap but effective. 1 catches the front drive, to cover the back lot, and the 4th is angled just right to catch anyone coming around the side. I saw made me say things I probably shouldn't repeat in polite company. At exactly 2:46 a.m. The footage showed a white Ford F-150 creeping down the alley behind my house with its headlights off. Then came her, Karen. Not just any Karen, the Karen, HOA president. Sundress, sweater draped over her shoulders, hair pinned back like she just came from a church fundraiser. She walked straight up to my locked gate like she owned the place, fiddled with something in her purse, and then the camera caught the glint of bolt cutters in her son's hands. I sat there, jaw unhinged, watching her son, some 30-something burnout with tribal tattoos and socks and sandals, snip through the lock, swing the gate open, and back the truck into my yard. Karen pointed like a foreman directing traffic, guiding her son as he hitched my boat to the back of their truck. They didn't even look around, not a hint of hesitation, like they were entitled to it. Once it was secured, Karen dusted her hands like she'd just finished baking cookies, gave her son a big smile, and waved him off. He drove away with my boat like it was a pizza delivery. Karen followed behind in her little silver Lexus, headlights blazing now. Not a care in the world. I slammed my laptop shut and grabbed my phone, called 911. The dispatcher took my report, and within 20 minutes a cruiser rolled up outside. I showed the officer the footage, the broken chain, the cut lock. He asked if I knew the suspects. Oh, I know them, I said. That's Karen Wilkins, HOA president, and that's her son Trevor, I think. The officer raised an eyebrow. They took your boat, hooked it up and drove off like they were running errands. Middle of the night, he sighed. Let's pay them a visit. We got in his car and headed to Karen's house. She lives just 5 doors down, big blue house with those fake plastic flower beds out front and 3 HOA compliance signs on her lawn. The moment we pulled up, the front door opened. Karen stormed out like she'd been waiting for us. Phone clutched in one hand, lips pursed in that perfect, furious line she always made when someone dared to challenge her sacred HOA code. Officer, she barked, waving her phone. This man is harassing me. The cop glanced at me, then back at her. Ma'am, we're here regarding a stolen boat. Her face turned the color of a sunburn. That boat, she jabbed a finger at the air, like the very idea disgusted her. He doesn't even use it. It's just sitting there, taking up space. My son is a veteran. He deserves it more than this man-child playing fisherman. I don't care if he's a veteran or a ninja turtle, the officer said calmly. That boat belongs to him. Taking it is theft. Karen's jaw dropped. I'm the HOA president. I made an executive decision. That boat violated community aesthetic standards, Section 5, Article B. I'm going to stop you right there, the officer said, reaching for his radio. That doesn't give you the right to enter someone's property and remove personal belongings. He shouldn't even have a boat. She shrieked, dialing 911 on her phone with shaking fingers. I am being attacked. He's here. RIGHT. Now the officer just stared at her like she'd grown a second head. Ma'am, I am the police. She stopped mid-scream, blinking. Then she tried to shift gears. My son needs it. He's going through things. Emotional support, bishing, not how the law works, the officer said, now clearly annoyed. As she ranted about community justice and unfit homeowners, a second cruiser rolled up. The officer from that car joined us, and I showed him the footage on my phone. He watched in silence, then looked at Karen, double quotes. Yeah, this is straight up grand theft. Karen heard those words and froze. Her mouth opened like she wanted to protest, but nothing came out. For the first time since I moved to the neighborhood, she looked genuinely afraid. She backed away slowly, whispering something about not being treated fairly, before storming into her house and slamming the door. The officer turned to his partner. Let's go recover the boat. And with that, we headed off to her son's house because, as unbelievable as it already was, things were about to get a whole lot crazier. Karen's son lived about 10 minutes away in one of those cookie-cutter subdivisions with matching mailboxes and overwatered lawns. We rolled up in 2 cruisers, the engine hum the only sound on that quiet street, and there it was, my boat, still hitched to the back of his truck, parked right out in the open like he had just picked it up from the dealership. The tarp was halfway pulled back, and he was bent over the cooler on the deck, casually dropping in drinks like he was about to spend the day fishing with his buddies. The officers stepped out first. I stayed back, watching from the sidewalk. Trevor, or whatever his name was, didn't even look surprised to see them. He straightened up, stretched, and gave a lazy grin. "You hear about the boat?" he said, like he was expecting a pat on the back for civic duty. "Yes, we are," one of the officers said, hand resting near his belt. "Where did you get it?" "My mum gave it to me," Trevor said with a shrug. "She's the HOA president. Said the guy didn't use it, that it was just cluttering up the neighborhood. She told me it was being reassigned." I swear I almost laughed. Asterisk reassigned. Like boats are communal bicycles. "She doesn't have the authority to do that," the officer replied flatly. "Well, she said she did," Trevor said, clearly annoyed now. "Look, I've got some stuff going on." "All right." I needed a break. Fishing's therapeutic. The second officer, the one who'd watched my footage, stepped closer. "Sir, you're in possession of stolen property. You need to unhook the boat, right now." Trevor's expression went sour. "Are you serious? You're taking his side? He doesn't even need it. The guy lives alone. He's not even married. No kids. Who's he taking out on the water himself? Whether he uses it or not is irrelevant," the officer said. "It's his property." Trevor looked from one cop to the other, then at me. Our eyes met, and he rolled his eyes like I was the one being unreasonable. "Whatever, man, you could have just let me use it once or twice." The officers didn't wait any longer. One of them called in a tow. The other started taking photos. Trevor stood there fuming, arms crossed, muttering under his breath about privilege and entitled neighbors. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. Watching the tow truck slowly roll up and reclaim what was mine was more satisfying than anything I could have said. The impound crew handled the boat like pros. 10 minutes later, my baby was free from the truck and safely hitched to the city trailer. One of the officers handed me a receipt and a case number. "You'll need to pay the tow fee," he said, "but you'll get reimbursed through the court." I nodded. Worth every penny. As the boat was towed away, the officers turned to Trevor. "You're under arrest for possession of stolen property." His face dropped. Wait, you're kidding, right?" "Turn around, sir." "Come on, man, my mum said it was okay." "I didn't know it was stolen." "You knew it wasn't yours," the officer replied. He resisted just for a second, but that was enough to earn him an extra charge for non-compliance. They cuffed him, read him his rights, and walked him to the cruiser as a few curious neighbors peeked out from their blinds. I figured that would be the end of it. But no. Karen, being Karen, decided she still had one last tantrum in her. Later that afternoon, she showed up at the precinct demanding they release her son. I wasn't there, but one of the officers called me and said she caused such a scene she ended up getting herself arrested for disorderly conduct, obstruction, and attempting to interfere with an investigation. Apparently she brought printouts of HOA bylaws as her defense. The officers weren't impressed. The fallout in the neighborhood was glorious. Word spread fast. The HOA board scheduled an emergency meeting for that weekend. More than residents showed up, some of whom I hadn't seen in years. People were done with Karen one by one. Neighbors stepped up to the mic and aired their grievances. Fake fines, threatening letters, citations for things as small as the wrong trash can placement, or having too bright porch lights. Then came the vote. Out of 54 eligible residents, 51 voted to remove Karen permanently from the HOA. 2 abstained. One, the last holdout, voted to keep her, but quickly changed his mind when someone reminded him she fined his wife for drying beach towels on the back fence. Karen's reign ended in less than 15 minutes, but it didn't stop there. A forensic audit of HOA records revealed over $12,000 in suspicious processing fees and compliance penalties, issued to residents without any board approval. Most of it was traced back to Karen's personal bank account. The board immediately filed a civil suit, and I heard she had to refinance her home just to cover legal costs. My boat was returned to me the next day, still in perfect condition, minus a few crushed beer cans in the cooler and a fishing magazine Trevor left behind. I cleaned it out, tightened the lock, added motion-triggered lights around the yard, and even had a steel bollard installed to block off the trailer access. No one was taking it again. Then, a month later, I got a knock at the door. It was Trevor. He wasn't alone. An officer stood behind him, arms crossed. "I'm here to deliver this," Trevor muttered, holding out an envelope. Inside was a handwritten apology letter, clearly It was short, barely a paragraph, and filled with half-hearted apologies, like I didn't realize how serious it was, and I guess I made a mistake. Along with it was a cashier's check for $1,200, my restitution. "I'm not allowed to talk to you," Trevor said, backing up. "So, have a nice life." I watched them leave, closed the door, and slid the letter into a cheap black frame, hung it right over my garage workbench. That framed apology reminds me every time I walk past it. No matter how powerful someone thinks they are, no HOA title, no clipboard, no smug sense of entitlement gives them the right to take what's yours. Especially not your boat.